Projects are popping up all over Statesville. Some call it a mess. We call it progress. Stay tuned today to learn more about the projects going on in our city.
Welcome to Front and Center, the podcast that pulls back the curtain on government operations, offering you an exclusive glimpse into the inner workings of the city of Statesville.
Good morning. We're going to start out today talking city business, following up on an article that was just written called Pardon Our Mess. Today, my name is Ron Smith. We have today
Matt Hubert. I'm the city engineer and the engineering director for Statesville.
And I'm Scott Harrell, the assistant city manager.
Yeah, thank you guys. So thought it would be a good idea to supplant April and Nikayla today and talk about some real projects. We've had a lot going on in Statesville, and I recently wrote an article that was put in the Harrell Free News. I believe the Record and Landmark ran it as well. And really, it just talked about all of a lot of the construction that's going on in town. And it was kind of the byproduct of questions, complaints, and a ride around town with my wife, who told me that, hey, I can't get anywhere downtown when you guys are going to be fixing all this stuff. So kind of made me think, well, I need to kind of or somebody needs to say, okay, well, this is what's going on and talk it through. But as I did that, it really occurred to me that, this is, I was only hitting like the tip of the iceberg. And so we're going to go through a lot of the projects that we have going on. And even today, we're not going to cover everything. There's just so much. And as the opening says, this is progress. We just have so much going on. These are things that have to happen or that we're forced into doing. So Matt and Scott are here because these are the guys that are actually in it every day, dealing with the issues, figuring out what the contractors to bring in, how much money we're going to be spending, the logistics of each of these projects. And I will say, to both of their credits, this is not their daily duties. There are many other things that have to happen to get outside of these projects. So my hat's off to both of you guys for what you're doing. So let's go ahead and we'll just jump in, and we're going to walk through each one of these, and y'all give the level of detail that you really want to give. And I'm going to start with the South Statesville area. We got two things that we just finished fire station number 1, the redo of that. But then also we've finished the first couple phases of the Municipal Operations Center. So one of you want to talk about what's been done and then kind of how we're going to go about the next phases?
Yeah, so the first 2 phases of the Municipal Operations Center are done. They're all moved in and operational. The largest building is for the Statesville Public Power, brand new facility and enough space for them to do the great work that they've been doing and continue to do. The other side of that is the parking. I'm sorry, I said parking, but it's the
Garage.
It's the garage for maintenance, vehicle maintenance garage. And again, they've got a brand new facility that really is state of the art and will allow them to keep up all the equipment that we have on hand and have to use on a daily basis. Lots of good space for them. And then we added a warehouse as a part of that project too that will update our ability to keep stock and operate on a day-to-day. And that's really exciting.
So Scott, you've been here longer than I have, and Matt, you've been a little over a year?
November
A year. Okay.
It just feels like 2 or 3 years, right?
So I kind of I always looked at what we used to call the warehouse, which is now the Municipal Operations Center, as kind of this exercise in ingenuity, because if you went onto the site, nothing matches, nothing. You had Band-Aids everywhere.
You have a building representing most of every decade up to the 70s anyway, and an exercise in ingenuity is very kind. I would call it more like a Frankenstein. It's hard to know what was original and what was added on, but to our staff's credit and operation crew's credit, they made it work. And you mentioned the Statesville Public Power Building as an example. They were previously in 4 different buildings, 3 on this site, 1 down the road. They now have people who have worked 20 plus years with the city that are in the same building for the first time. And it's really creating opportunity to collaborate and be more efficient in what they do. Same thing with the garage. Their facility was very undersized and obsolete. And so they're now in a new facility with room to grow and room to work. And so we're looking forward to continuing that for the next phase, phase 3 and 4, which will serve public works, public utilities, and stormwater, which more specifically our sanitation crews, our street maintenance crews, and our water sewer maintenance crews. Again, looking to improve efficiency, get them from just everything's kind of stuck hither and yon. Nothing, I won't say it's not organized. Our guys do a great job of making good work out of what they have to work with, but they really need to move forward into the present time with the operational facility that supports what they need. And Ron, you mentioned both of this. This is neither one is our primary job. The same thing for our operations crews. These construction projects could not take place without a team effort. We have people, frontline workers every day, streets, electric, sanitation, the garage, water sewer, who take time out of what they have to do already to help plan, move stuff around, because we're basically rebuilding our house without moving out of it. So we're kind of working our way across the site, and they're having to move stuff to get it out of the way of construction while still doing their jobs and helping us plan and get the space and the arrangement right. And so it's a big undertaking, but we're really thankful for the momentum and the support of the city leaders to get this moving and looking forward to the next phase.
And that's a good point. Usually my biggest role that I see in these projects is on the very front end. It's, just kind of understanding the needs, which comes from you guys, staff, in different avenues, understanding those needs, and then taking those, developing some sort of plan and a way to get it funded through and approved through council. And a lot of times it takes it takes some time to get there. In this case, for whatever reason, a couple of years ago, a little bit longer than that, when we took it in, at the time, it was longer than that, Scott. I can't even remember.
Probably 5 years.
But, all in, it was like a $30 million. It was a big price tag. And I was pretty worried about, what kind of response were we going to get? Because it was going to be the biggest project that we did. And so we did our homework. We took the council to Mooresville at the time to look at their ops center. Also took them out to our warehouse. And it was probably the easiest project to get approved that I've presented to them. To the council's credit, they saw the needs and were ready to pounce on it. So, okay, let's change gears. I don't want to go there, but let's go there. The corner of Front Street and Trad, we've got 2 projects going there, Matt. I know you don't ever want to hear the word sinkhole again. So you want to talk about the building project and the fill in the hole project?
Sure, absolutely. No, there's a lot going on there, and it's all bleeding over from one into the next. And honestly, sinkholes are going to be something that are with us when you have infrastructure for a city that's been around so long doing business. It takes a lot of upkeep, so I don't think that's going to go away. I just hope they end up in places that are more manageable in the future. But we've had to put up with a very extended interruption there. Obviously, a part of town that we want to have open and vibrant has been kind of hemmed in. But we're doing the work that needs to be done all in one spot. It's replacing all of the storm drain that's down there from the 50s. The water mains are getting replaced. The sewer mains are getting replaced, and it's all happening in that one spot. And you can't do it all at once. You've got to kind of methodically take that bite by bite, and that's what's taken so long. The weather certainly hasn't helped, but we are literally at the last phase of the last bit of sewer up Trad Street. That'll get completed and backfilled this week, and then a paving ideally would be scheduled for next week. We're looking at mid-September to hopefully be out of that and let everybody be able to roam freely. That is on the corner where the police department expansion is occurring as well. Right now, the biggest thing you see coming out of the ground is the parking garage that's directly on the corner of Front and Trad. Those walls are going up, the foundations are coming in. Once they're done with that and we open up Front Street, we're going to keep a lane closed and we'll keep Trad Street closed so they can bring in the precast structural parts of the parking deck. And that'll happen mid-September, late September. You'll start seeing cranes and much more vertical activity that'll start to be really exciting. That is also part of the expansion. The parking deck's going to bring in about 330 plus spaces. Some of that will be for the police station's use. Some of that will be for the public, which is always good. And then some of that will be for the apartment complex when it comes as the final stage of that. The police department is also being expanded as a major renovation from its original setup. That's going to add another 14,000 square feet of use for that growing department to continue to meet the needs. And then, of course, that'll be going on over the next year.
So, the parking deck, it's going to be, how do you remember off the top of your head
6
how tall?
levels. Yeah.
So it's going to be a major addition to the downtown.
Yeah, you will notice it.
Yeah, yes, that's right. And then Matt alluded to the apartment project. So this was done as a public-private partnership between us and Delco Partners out of Hickory. And so we're looking at 125 or so, market rate apartments that are going to be coming in downtown, hopefully going to, push activity downtown. And to me, and I've said this to a lot of people, I'm hoping that this is the first of more projects to come, from a residential standpoint.
Yeah, no, from a personal standpoint, when I got hired in November, I was really thinking, hey, I would want to rent downtown to start, really get to know downtown. That's the vibrant center of the community, and I couldn't find anywhere at all. And so this is going to be exciting, I think, for me and anybody else in that boat to have something that's available. I would expect them to be very popular and hope that we will get more coming down, because downtown is such a great place to want to be and operate, work, and entertain. So excited to see how that's going to come about.
Yeah. Okay, so Scott, I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Right.
We're going to totally change gears. Let's talk about, in Dr. Bill Vaughn's terminology, the spline project.
The spline project, yes, the water main replacement. So, as Matt mentioned, at the corner of Trad and Front, there's some old infrastructure there from our water plant, which sits on the north side of town, just off Pump Station Road. There are 3 main, we'll say, arteries, water lines that come out of it. One of them pretty much comes due south, runs all the way through downtown, all the way to actually connects with Troutman. That's the oldest of the 3. It was installed, a lot of it, in the 1940s. And so obviously due for replacement. We did an analysis a couple, 3, maybe a little bit longer years ago, like what's our highest risk, highest impact of failure, and that line is the one that kind of rose to the top. It's the oldest, is the highest combination of old and impact of failure. And then so we decided to start this, and we broke it into 3 different segments to tackle one at a time, because it's a big project. And then the state legislature came through with a $20 million grant to the city to fund this. So we're doing it all at once. So if you've been on Water and Center Street, or around Gaither Road, or on Bagnell Boulevard, you've seen piles of dirt, you've seen equipment. That's the early work. We're boring under like railroads and highways, places you can't dig an open trench through. So actually boring under Interstate 40, boring under Bagnell Boulevard and Norfolk Southern, and then in Center Street, a crew was there, not boring, but just working to start the line there. Have multiple crews working, because the one thing with grant money, there are deadlines, so we've got to be done by this time next year. We need to be really close, and so it's around 6 miles of work total. A lot of it is in downtown, so you've got pavement, you've got other utilities, you've got traffic. There's a lot of obstacles, a lot of challenges to doing the work and doing it well and doing it in a expeditious manner. So kind of multiple 2 crews now, and soon to be 3 crews working all in different parts of town. So sorry to Catherine, but yeah, there's going to be road closures and detours moving through town for the next 12, 13 months. But it's a great project. It will improve the liability of fire service and water service, especially on the south side of town. The older pipes tend to get, the engineering term is tuberculated, but they get built up in them and they don't convey flow as well as newer pipes do. And so we're going to get a new pipe, large diameter, going all the way to the south side of town, and that'll help with our system performance overall. Plus, take a big liability out of the process, out of the system in the process.
So definitely not going to be a boring project.
No.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just from sheer mileage. You know, there will be disruptions. I mean, one thing that these guys would tell you is that anytime you dig a hole, you don't exactly know what you're going to find.
That's correct.
And even on the first little piece on Water Street, I think it was, you know, we found some issues and we're just having to coordinate and move through those. So, you know, I think patience is going to be key to move. Well, with any of these, I mean, it's similar to the sinkhole. You know, just, you know, we're trying to get the word out when we have an affected area. Like right now, we're working real closely with the hospital, you know, and we're trying to do our best to let people know when we're going to be in the area. So, you know, it'll be disruptive. I mean, it just is. But again, it's progress.
And well, just to that point about the hospital, it takes a lot of effort, and we're really reaching out and digging in with the hospital, because you think about, we're going to put a water line in. Well, where are the ambulances? How do they get there? How do the 1,000 employees at Iowa Memorial get there in and out every day? We don't want to be, when do we switch the water service from the hospital from the old line to the new line? They're going to have to shut the water off for a few minutes. So there's a lot of coordination that takes place. It's not just digging a trench and dropping a pipe in the ground. We're coordinating with the county, because as we work on Stockton Street, we'll be going past the courts, past the sheriff's office, past the election board, which is, you know, election day is coming. We really don't want to have, you know, a big pile of dirt and an open trench in front of the election board on election day. So there's a lot of coordination to take place. Contractor's very responsive. And again, there's a whole team of folks on the city and on the contractor side and our engineer consultant side to working to make sure information is out there and people know what to expect and what routes are open, what routes are closed. And it'll change weekly, and we'll just work on it 1 week at a time.
Yeah. So also one of the things that we've put a lot, when the city council's been very generous with putting money into parks in the last, I'd say, 4-ish years. So you know, you don't see a whole lot out of that because it's taken a lot of planning, and some of the projects have not gone exactly like we wanted. But hitting on a few of our parks, you know, redid the tennis courts at Caldwell Park here recently. Took way longer than we ever would have imagined, but we just had our issues there, and redid the pickleball courts. I'm going to be doing some new pickleball courts out at Martin Luther King Jr. Park. We've got bids in. I challenged H over in recreation to get more than one bid, which we've been having our troubles with, and he got 6. So
wow.
he set the bar pretty high because we want, you know, for those who care about those kind of things, the more bids we have, the more competition there is, you know, for these projects, and therefore, you know, theoretically, people are going to be drilling down a little on their prices. So, you know, when we can get 3 to 6 to more than that, we're in much better shape. So, you know, we've got those bids in hand for I think it's just going to be a couple of pickleball courts at Martin Luther King. And then we're planning for some more. So, you know, that's something that we've heard the need is there. Have the money for the first project, and we'll be looking for some others. Kimbrough Park over on Greenbrier Road, doing some renovations there, putting in a new playground facility. We're going to put in a new shelter, redo some sidewalk work and that type of thing. So we're trying to invest in our parks, because in my conversations with Richard Griggs, our recreation director, you know, we are, with all the growth, we're kind of trying to tend to look out more. But I've heard enough about, you know, you gotta strengthen your strengths, and our strengths are what we already have, and let's make sure we're taking care of those things. So, you know, we're just trying to do more and more of that. Some of our projects have not gotten off the ground. Alex Cooper Park, which is in South Statesville, we've got money set aside, but we have a high transmission line, high power transmission, Duke power line. that runs right through the middle. Can't do anything underneath that. So we're struggling with how to move that one forward. So, parks, I would look at, that's something that, talking about progress, we're going to continue to push those projects forward and hopefully, have a better system overall. Matt, I said I would take most of the airport stuff, but you're kind of in on the terminal building. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, no, that's a really exciting one for sure. It's a brand new facility, and it's going to add a lot of capability and really meet the needs of the present and into the future. It's 3 stories. It's going to have more facilities for those that are training, learning to fly out of there, and then for the pilots and whoever operates out of there to be able to have a great facility, top to bottom. And so that's looking to finish here. It's feverishly coming out of the ground, and we'll be looking to finish, if not November, in December of this year to maybe have a great holiday.
Okay. Speaking of the airport, we've got some other projects there. A lot of people don't see our airport, don't get out there. It's on the far western side of town. Although a lot more activity, new development, just more, going on out that way. Busy airport. We had, I think over this last year, we had 60,000 touchdowns, or takeoffs and landings. So there's a lot of activity at our, relatively small general aviation airport. One of the things we've been very fortunate to get is grant money from the state Division of Aviation to expand the airport. So we've got a South Corporate taxiway. Actually, we're working on an additional taxiway. We're working on an additional apron space and corporate hangar space, in addition to trying to figure out a new hangar and apron space off of one of our taxiways, hopefully for Victory Air. So a lot going on out there, and in addition to the terminal building. So it's something that if you don't know about it as a city resident, you need to know about it, and it's something to definitely be proud of. Scott, you want to talk about the Circuit 63 underground?
I would like to talk about that. Electric is something I'm learning more about, not been my forte in the past. I'm getting there. So a couple things are going on Circuit 63, which doesn't mean anything to most of us if you're not in our public power department, but that is the Valley Stream Road, Earlwood Road, and Glenhaven Road area there off of East Broad Street, just tucked up against Interstate 77. 2 things. One, the city, and this may not mean a lot to a lot of folks, but most of our older lines were 4 kV, 4 kilovolt lines. We now operate at 23 kilovolts, but there are still some old 4 kV lines out there, so we've had an ongoing project, annual project to replace those 4 kV lines and upgrade them to 23 kV. Which is it's the service provision level we want to have. And then when we're doing that, in the process, we take advantage of the opportunity to do other upgrades. So Circuit 63, again, the Valley Stream Road area, is one of those where in recent years, there's a lot of mature tree cover in that area. They have a lot of issues, even on smaller storms, with loss of power because tree limbs fall, take out the power line. So this is a 4 kV area, so in the process of replacing the 4 kV lines with 23 kV lines, we're going to be also putting them all underground. So it's kind of a dual dual benefit to the area there. That's it's about a $500,000 project. It's getting ready to kick off this month. Take them about 10 or 11 months to get done. For the residents in that area, you'll notice utility crews working. We do contract this work out. They'll be in front of your house. It's going to be underground, so a lot of, again, not boring, but boring work. For each of those residents, you will have the opportunity to make your own service line to your house underground. It would be at the resident's cost. But they'll have that option, and there'll be information about where they can, each resident has the opportunity to consider that, and they will get all underground service, depending on what fits your site and what your preference is. So, but it's an exciting thing for our guys because it's going to greatly cut down on their call outs and maintenance work because we get everything underground. It's not a subject to nature and vehicles and other things that can impact our power system.
And this is one of those situations where having our own public power system pays off. Where if it's Duke Power or Energy United, maybe they don't do this type of thing, but we know that it's a problem area for us. and we can budget for those changes. So it's, it's just one of those benefits that, from a customer service standpoint, just trying to help, with our ratepayers and give them the best product that we can. Getting into some, one area where it's going to be a lack of a project, but it's going to be probably worse because of it, and that's the US 21 north of town. We've had a NCDOT project on the books, and right away has been purchased to widen that road basically from the Publix area north to Jane Sowers. And so that's been pushed off, and it's 5 years out, and I think it's going to be about a 6-year construction project. That's a heavy growth area for us, and I know that the council is probably going to take some abuse over that. They had nothing to do with it, and as developments have been approved, the assumption has been, well, the road's ready to go. It's about to start, but it's a decision that was really beyond their control. So that's something that's not going to be happening. I really regret that we can't move it forward. Speaking of development, would either of you like to talk about? We've got the Newtown Shopping Center. We've had some discussions about what's going on in there. I know we can't really say who it is, but maybe even just talk about some of the detail that goes into planning for a project like that.
I could say a little. I mean, we have some interest in the site, some preliminary plans on what might be taking place there. If you drive by, you'll notice at the far back end of the site, the old theater building and old restaurant have been demolished, so there is some work taking place. But it does really highlight, everybody's like, hey, this is a great site. Why hasn't it been built on yet? Well, it's been the way it is for years. There's water and sewer underground, there's power, and there's an adjacent site, the mall site and the Belk site, and there's a lot of coordination that takes place. If you want to put a building in a certain spot, you need to make sure that spot's ready for it, and there's utilities have to be relocated and figure out who pays for what, and there's just a lot of coordination. What kind of other traffic provisions need to be made to handle it, whatever might come. So there's a lot of coordination conversations going on. And it may not look like it from driving by, but we are, I guess, feeling some momentum there, and look forward to things moving forward here soon.
Yeah, the location's great, and the need is there. It's just, like Scott said, when you're doing a retrofit, that's one of the most difficult things to undertake because you're constrained in every direction. You've got out of date and probably new policies have come in environmentally and code that have to be applied, and it's the expense of all of the design and construction have never been higher. So you have to be very deliberate and get your pro forma right where you want to be able to move forward with projects that big. But I think it's going to be a brand new kind of footprint and something ideally amazing because it's really ripe for the picking.
Oh, absolutely. So guys, what have I missed through our preparation? Is there anything or questions, anything you want to add or talk about?
Well, just the point, we've hit the highlights, but there's still more out there. There's sidewalk projects coming online very soon, road projects, greenway projects, all in different stages. Some of these have been in the formulating stages for years, and it just, whether the funding sources or the site constraints, it's just hard to push things forward. If it feels slow as a resident, it feels slow as a staff member too. There's things we wish we had gotten done years ago, and it's just there's just hurdles to work through sometimes, and then sometimes it's just nobody's fault. It just takes a while. But we're pushing to have some very dedicated. I would say the planning department, engineering. There's a lot of folks who push hard and have done a lot of work to get us in a position to do these projects, and we're finally seeing some get close to the front of the line, and we're excited about it.
Yeah, and I think you spoke about some of the sidewalk. We are just in the next couple of weeks going to kick off some sidewalk projects along Stockton and Alexander Streets. Those took some time. Again, everything, you got to get the design done and you set a budget, and then the economy pushes costs up and the availability, but progress in the region is really the key buzzword. And so we're competing against everybody else, trying to do the same thing and take advantage of a great market. And so it does, we get these bids in and they're not real competitive because everybody's busy. And then we got to go back to the drawing board on cost because they've come in too high, and that's, I think inflation's hitting everything, and we're adjusting to that. And one of the best ways is to kind of slow it down and rethink how best we can meet our budget without breaking the bank. Another great example is we're doing a lot of culvert replacements. Stormwater is an area that, just like every other piece of infrastructure, we've got to keep up with. And two examples that we've got going, we're saving the money budget-wise over the years to be able to afford these, so that it's not such a big hit. Because we've got to balance all those funds. And when we talk about the scope, we're talking about one 48-inch pipe has got to be replaced, and it's going back with a 9-foot by 6-foot wide box culvert, 2 of them. And so that's how undersized. You don't have to be an engineer really to understand how, we've seen the storms and the intensities increase, and our systems are not designed to handle them. This is what it's taking. The other project is a 72-inch pipe, and it's being replaced with 2 11-foot by 8-foot box culverts. And those are very expensive, but the results will be, night and day between what you see happening after a small storm and it's overflowing versus being able to handle the storms that we're getting now and not being worried about our homes getting cut off or emergency access, things like that.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, thank you. I joke. I give Scott a hard time all the time about I'm a high level kind of big picture guy. Well, you may not call me high level. I'm a cartoonish big picture kind of guy. And got a lot of ideas and kind of got to think about things, today, tomorrow, and 10 years. But what you got, and I give Scott a hard time saying, well, you give me all the details and then some. But without Matt and Scott and what they do to get into the details and get into the minutia of these things, I mean, they wouldn't happen. And these are none of the projects that we have talked about today are easy. So combined, and we didn't hit everything, combined, it's tedious work. And it always takes longer than what we're thinking. And I hate to say it, it's usually more expensive too, but that's just the way it's been. But I want to thank you guys for coming today, but also bigger what you do, for the city and how you execute, your work and how you do your jobs. I do appreciate it. And then the last thing, I want to thank the property owners around Front Street and Trad Street for their patience. I mean, nobody wants this hole filled quicker than we do, but it is one of those things, and we sympathize with you, and we're trying as hard as we can, and everybody's included in that.
Tune in to the next episode as we share our dedication to transparency, public service, and governance, shining a spotlight on our commitment to keeping you well informed about all things City of Statesville.